Hi, everyone, and welcome to another Thursday with Lavanya. And for today, I've prepared something around life force and creating more harmony. And for those, some of you might have watched my science series on YouTube, and I just talking about the subtle energy spectrum, about things like biogeometry. It's really in the light of the cosmic tower, but it applies to everything. And I'm not doing that series really. I mean, I'm doing it for the towers, but I really want people to get an understanding of this subtle energy spectrum and this subtle energy realm, because really, like for humanity, that's really where it's at. If we're gonna stay stuck in like the modern science paradigm, I mean, we're not heading in a good way, right? And we've done a lot of damage because of our ignorance, because of the fact that we only take the electromagnetic spectrum into account and then create technologies without even realizing, what the effects are on the subtle energy level, which is like our spiritual plane, our mental plane, emotional, or our vitality plane, like the flow of energy and information. And what I wanted to do here with the group is to make some of these things practical. Because, I mean, ultimately, you can study as much as you want, and I just like it because I love doing it. I like to figure out, how things work. I was taking radios apart when I was like 6 years old and couldn't put them back together, which really pissed off my dad. But hey, that's the price you gotta pay of learning. But like, I really want people, but I've really found the balance with that, where before, when I was younger, I wanted to understand things because I think something was like missing, right? And then when I went through my own like spiritual awakening, as you guys know, and then I had all these experiences and I've met great teachers, and I was like, yeah, I kind of know the path for myself, but I still like to understand how things work, and but that's just a hobby now. And it doesn't mean that sometimes when you have a mental understanding of something, that it doesn't also help you, right? But this is really going to be about an experience. And for those that might not have watched it, like, we talk a lot about life force in this series, and life force is not even acknowledged by mainstream science, right? They just look at, well, there's electricity in the body, there's magnetism, but life force is really, the energy, as I would describe it, from the one source that travels down through all the layers of reality and of our experience, and it really animates these physical bodies. You might think that you feel with your physical body, but it's really not true. It's actually your etheric body. I don't know, you probably have had this experience, where your arm or something falls asleep, right? And you don't have that sensation in it. It's actually the etheric body that feels. And for some people, I mean, we've gone through this transition in humanity to where we're so infatuated with the body and we're so identified with we are this. What has actually happened is that our etheric body has shrunk, like, into our body. So people that are quote unquote psychic, which we all are, by the way, or people that are empathic and are able to feel different things from different people or from the environment, their etheric body is just more expanded out, right? Or people that use hallucinogenics like mushrooms. What does it do? It kind of poisons your body to where the etheric body then has to expand outside of the body. So that's when you start seeing all these geometries, and you start experiencing all these subtle levels. So what I want to do today is, first, I just want to show you a simple practice of how you can bring more life force into your body. I mean, and I don't even like the word life force because it implies force. right? You cannot force life. You cannot generate life force. Life force is already there, and you can connect more strongly with it and come more in resonance with it, right? But ultimately, it's not a forcing. If anything, I would call it life relax. Because the more you relax, the more you will actually come into that resonance with the life force, and the more energy you will have available. And so much in our reality or in our world now, we make things happen out there, right? And we got to do this, and we're going to accomplish this, and we set our minds on things, and then we go do it. When it comes to life force, it's the other way around. Life force is really to bring your focus back in. So so if we want to, generate's not the right word, but if we want to come more in resonance in our body with the life force and have more energy, it's really about shifting our focus from the external world to the internal. One time I did a 10-day silent retreat, and it was a Vipassana retreat. And you live like a monk. You wake up at 3:30 in the morning, start meditating, and pretty much meditated, until nighttime, 9:30 or whatever, go to bed, do it all again. And one of the things was you were not allowed to talk, and I loved it. I mean, as much as I like to talk, believe it or not, like I absolutely loved it because I had so much energy by the end of the week. And then my Taoist teacher said, like, hey, 80% or 90% of your energy is lost through talking. That's why if you go sit with the Navajo or some of the Indians in their circle, they don't talk. They just don't talk to talk. I mean, if they have something to say, they will, and it's really important, they will be really deliberate about it, and they do not waste that energy by just like talking all day. And something I really enjoyed, because every word that came out of their mouth was, pretty profound. So there's a really simple practice, and I read this book years ago about life force. I think his name is uh, Dan Emerson, and he actually was able to achieve amazing results with just this simple practice. And what this practice is, and we'll do it together here in a minute. I'm just gonna talk you through it. Is that the greatest energy activity felt within the body? So where you feel your predominant physical sensation, that's actually where your weakest link is, and that's the place that requires most of your awareness and your attention. And what happens is, if you simply place your awareness there, it just allows the energy to transform, to come lighter, and eventually more peaceful. And those are all signs that your life force is building. So in this practice, what we're going to do here in a minute is we're simply going to be aware of your body, and then you're going to find where that predominant feeling is, right? And this can move, and you're just going to stay with it. And now this is important. Like, we're so habituated to then either go into judgment, like, ooh, this is bad feeling, or this is a good feeling. I don't want that, or I want more of that, right? Your mind's going to do that. Just let it do that. Don't pay attention to it. Simply keep coming back to the energy and just feeling its quality. Just notice what it is doing, right? So don't, and your mind's going to go in anyway. That's fine when you notice that. Just let it do its thing, and it will stop doing that. But once you find that predominant physical sensation in your body that draws the most attention, that's really where your awareness uh, wants to be. So, does anybody have any questions about that? Okay. So all I want you to do is just relax, and you can close your eyes if you want to, if that helps you. Some people it's easier with eyes open, doesn't matter. And what I want you to do is just turn your awareness inside. And then I want you to just let your awareness go to what's predominant, to what you feel the most. And then just hold your awareness there. That feeling might change, might shift, or it might move to another location. When it does, you just follow it. Just stay with that. If anything, relax that area. Relaxing is not a doing, it's just, you just let the tension go. Good. Just stay with that. For some of you, it might be like me in the beginning, and you're like, shit, this is just like moving all over the place and so fast. That's okay. Just stay with it. Don't forget to breathe. Maybe your mind's going off on a tangent. Don't try to stop it. Just allow it to do that, but just bring your awareness back to where in your body you feel that predominant feeling. Just give it your full awareness. If it moves, just follow it. Doesn't matter whether your mind thinks it feels good or bad. You just observe it. Just have your attention there. Keep following that predominant feeling. You just keep following it. As an interested observer, not there to judge it or anything, just to watch it or feel it or hear it. Stay with it. Stay with that predominant feeling, following it around, breathing, just relaxing more, just staying with the feeling. If it moves, you move with it. If it moves fast in the beginning, that's fine. Just follow it. Relaxing. Keep doing that for a few more minutes, and then I'm gonna ask you to turn your awareness outside again. Just keep following that feeling. There might be multiple feelings sometimes. Just stick with the one that's like predominant, the one that draws you in the most. That's where your attention is needed most. There is great power in your awareness. You might have heard where your focus goes, energy flows. It's very much what we're doing. Just being aware of where most of the life force wants to go to. And just through awareness, we come in resonance with that place, and more and even more energy will flow there. Good. You guys are doing great. And then just give yourself 10, 15 seconds to just come back, and then we'll talk about this. Take your time. Just shifting your awareness outward again. Good. Would anybody like to share what did you notice when you do this, or how did it go for you? Megan, you want to share?
Sure. So
Yeah.
what so it's funny because I do something exercise like this typically when I get off work because like I feel like I'm going from like analytics to nurturing my kids kind of a thing, and it's
Mhm.
a way for me to like move my energy around type thing. And so doing it in this exercise, it was really funny because like my tongue kept feeling numb and my gut was like my energy was going there. And so whatever that means, that was the flow that kept kind of going for me. But that was really good.
Yeah, and very good. And it's good that you do this every day. And not like you already know this, but it doesn't matter what it means, right?
Yeah. Each day it's like something different. And so the more I think about it, the more I get stuck in the story. And so I just try to like, usually I fall asleep and that's my afternoon nap time is like one space to the other. But yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think what usually happens is conscious or unconscious, we feel something somewhere, and instead of just staying with feeling, with awareness, the mind goes into story mode. What if it's this? What if it's that? What if because I did this? Am I feeling this because of that?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And that beats the point then, because then we get stuck up here, and this is where all our energy is, and the body's like, hey, what about me?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, very good. Anybody else have any comments or questions or anything they like to share? How did this go for people? Like, were you able to like stick with it, or was it difficult? Marcia, yeah, you can unmute.
It was moving around at first and then it settled down and then I was totally relaxed.
Yes.
I'm sure you saw me scratching all of a sudden my body was like itching all over.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And that's kind of what happens in the beginning for me too. Like, I notice when I'm very much in my head, it's like, oh shit, it's like moving all over the place. I think that's some of that nervous mental energy that's still moving through the body. But then once you switch from like the thinking from the mind into the pure feeling, it settles down and it slows down. All right. So
So
yeah, this is a really simple practice. And like Megan said, if you do this, like I find it's a really good idea to make a transition, right? Every day from a more mental state to a state of feeling, which is a much more complete state than a mental state, right? So much more, the richness of the information is in the feeling, right? It's not in the mind. So I think that's a really good what you do to consciously just make that, make that transition every day to be like, hey, I'm not just a human doing, and just, um, allowing yourself to feel. And it really builds up your energy after you do this for a while. Like if you're really tired or something, if you can just do that and breathe steadily and just stay with this, I mean, your energy will really go up. Definitely if you do it consistently. It's my go-to when things get like uncomfortable sometimes. Sometimes I forget and I get in the mind. It's like going there and being with whatever there is. And the other thing that I notice when you do this a lot is that like emotions and other feelings, they become much easier because I think the mind makes them out to be like these terrible things that we got to stay out of, that make us feel bad. While if we just stay with them and just feel them without any stories attached, the stories is what keeps them stuck, right? And what keeps them repeating. If we stop doing that, then you notice that even if it's like a strong feeling, it will dissipate, right? And then that feeling will go somewhere else. And it's a good way to bring balance and to yourself, because you're basically going where most of your energy is going and just keep amping it up. All right. Do you have any questions, Patter, or did you just unmute?
Oh, I was gonna share and you just kind of
Yeah,
transitioned. But
go ahead.
my experience today was pretty interesting. We've done this before. I don't know if you remember, I think it was April when we were walking in the woods. And I'm so used to my body being constricted, my hip, my shoulder, my jaw, like whatever. And so I noticed that first off, today I'm in like a really just great space. So the capacity to feel an energetic version of myself that's just kind of tingling and here it's right there for me. And so when you say predominant state, that's my predominant state today.
Mhm.
And then I noticed that I like chased around looking for tension. And I was like, what are you doing chasing? And why are you looking for tension? Like, what's the predominant state? And the predominant state is this soft feeling, tingling self. And so, yeah, that was a new experience of doing this exercise with you. And yeah, it's
And trust me, those tensions are there. You don't have to look for them. But the fastest way to bring them up is to not go look for them,
mm,
right? And they just naturally come to the surface. And then the fastest way to quote unquote get rid of them is to just feel them without any storage attached. Right?
yeah. So as we're bringing awareness to this right now, like I know my jaw can be tight, and it's like earlier I was going there looking at that tightness, and right now even while we're dialoguing, I'm keeping some awareness on the predominant state, and the predominant state is this tingling. And so what I'm experiencing just in these last minute is that that tingling is like working out through both sides of my head and my face. It feels like it feels like a flowing in those areas instead of like concentrating on the constriction. And of course, I'm judging that as good.
Well, you bring up a good point. Like one of my early teachers on meditation, he talked about like if your mind's really running and is very tense, if you want to pay attention to your jaw. And he says if you relax your jaw, your mind relaxes.
Yeah.
So that's good that you're aware of those, because then you can start to see like the patterns. And then, because if we're in this mental tension, hey, the way we've been taught, we gotta solve that with more mental tension and then feel to then feel easier. But that's really not the path. The path is like, okay, you go to the body, and there's a direct effect of that, right? The mental plane through the emotional plane, it communicates with the body, and the body responds, right? It's just like you can imagine eating an apple and you start salivating, right? It's the same thing. But the other way around works too. Like if the mind's really tense, like pay attention to relaxing the body, and then especially the jaw. It's like so connected because it's connected to talking with putting that energy out, right? And then it gets all tensed up. So when you relax, that's a really good way to relax the mind.
Beautiful.
Awesome. So that's a simple exercise, and I do it all throughout the day. I'm not one of those, like I'm gonna sit on my pillow every morning for half an hour and meditate. And if that works for you, that's great, right? But I'm always looking for ways, how can I bring this into my life, even if it's a few minutes at a time, right? What I like to do is like to set up triggers in my environment, right? Every time I walk through a doorway, just focus on just bring my attention inwards and just relax and feel. And everything that we do, this mental, fixation and this focus, that's like learned behavior that we've created over time, right? Setting up those triggers to do the other way around, then that felt state is going to become predominant. And trust me, it's going to be amazing how much more your life is going to flow when you start paying attention to that and just releasing those tensions. All right. So what I want to do here is I want to talk a little bit about the one harmonizing quality, as they call it in biogeometry. It's called BG3. And it's the energy of the center. So what I want to do next is I want to give you some simple things to how you can bring more of that energy, of that harmonizing quality into your life. And it's really the energy of the center. So if you take a circle, that energy is present in the center. Now, the center is actually not a physical place. And what I mean by that is that if you put a dot there, you can say, oh, that dot is its own circle too, which has a center. And then that dot, right? So it's really, it's a transcendental quality. They call it the one harmonizing quality in the center of the vortex, in the center of a toroidal field. And this is really that connects through all of the subtle spectrum to all of the higher realms back to the source. And that's when people say, well, I got a center, right? That's what you're talking about. It's like coming back to this center place, which is not in space and time, by the way, but we can get there through that way, right? But that really is because remember when we talk about the scales, all right, the scale is out of balance. From a quantitative point of view, it said we got to add more weight here, or we got to remove some weight here. Centering is about we move the middle and the balance is back. And that's one way to look at what this quality does. So it's also very strong in like the cosmic tower strongly has that centering quality. It basically harmonizes everything to where the center is found again and everything is in balance. Now, there are ways to generate that energy in your life, and there's a lot of them. Biogeometry is basically built around that principle about creating as much of that one harmonizing energy quality as we can. But I want to share some things with you practically, how you can use this in your life. They're not going to cost you anything, and they're real easy to implement. So the first one is with numbers, right? When we use numbers, we only use them quantitatively, meaning I got 5 of this, I got 6 of that, 6 objects. But what is really important is that every number has a quality associated with it. And what I'm going to give you now is the qualities that are associated with life force and what are associated with the one harmonizing quality. So, and this is taught in many traditions. For example, the number 5 is very protective. That's why in some traditions, they'll put a 5-pointed star in their energetic field to protect from certain energies. It's the quality of that number 5 generates a protection. And I'm not going to go through all of them, but I'm going to give you some really important ones. And Marcia, and how you can apply them easily. Because some of these, they take some knowledge to implement the correct way, but these don't. So the first one I want to talk about is the number 8. And the number 8 creates a resonance with life force. All right. So one simple thing that you can do, and I'll show it with like a glass of water. What you can do is if you turn it in 8 increments clockwise, and I stopped counting, so it might not be 8, but you get the idea. You take the glass and you just rotate it in small increments, and you do that 8 times. Right? And what this does is, through the resonance of the number 8, it will start the vortex up in that container. So your water is going to resonate with life force. I do this with my plate of food. I don't know if Patter's ever seen this, but I get my plate of food and I turn it 8 times like that, clockwise. I think some people in restaurants must think I'm like crazy or something. Of like, ooh, he doesn't like his meat on that side. It had to be on this side. But that's not what it's about, right? You're basically you're starting this vortex back up that brings a life force into whatever you're consuming, right? So it's a real simple thing, and I pretty much do it all the time. Like, even though I have a cosmic towers here and I pour my water through an aqua energizer, I will still turn that glass like 8 times. You cannot have too much, right?
I love these little Nico-isms. You know, he was here for a while this summer, and one of the questions I asked him, I was like, you know, here we are in a home with multiple cosmic towers. Like, why do you still use the Aqua Energizer? And he said, because it helps me be mindful about water. It helps me stop for a minute. And so that little gem that you left, I've lately gotten into the habit of distilling, filtering, and then distilling all my water. And for a while, I wasn't structuring it because I have the 220 in the house, you know, and that feels good. But I've started, when the water comes off the distiller, I pour the whole container through an Aqua Energizer into the other, and I take that mindfulness that you brought and make that my habit too. And so I love that you are sharing more of how you walk through a doorway or how you receive a plate and these things, because you know, really it's all just as simple as this is, you know, being mindful of creating clockwise spin and generating negative electrons and being connected to life force is really powerful stuff. Seems so simple, but it's powerful.
It's always the most simple things that are the most powerful, but is it common sense or is it common practice, right? I mean, you have to get it into your life to where you're doing this thing. There's no excuses for this one, right? You get a glass of water, you turn it like 8 times, and you'll start noticing the difference. So you can do this with any food containers or whatever. I'm always playing with this. You know me, I'm super playful, so I'm always seeing where I can incorporate more of that. Other things that you can experiment with is like maybe for planting flowers, put 8 of them in a pot, right? And see what that does. Just that number 8 creates that connection with the life force. I'm telling you, once I understood these numbers and the power of shape, when I went through the temples in Egypt, you look at it completely different. You're like, holy shit, that's why they put 16 of them there, and that's why they put 8 of those here, and that's why that has that shape, right? These are These are places that generate certain energies. You don't go there to figure out a story of a pharaoh that did this or whatever. I'm just like, I don't really want to hear it. I just want to feel. It's about having that experience. So the next number I'm going to share with you is a number that generates this harmonizing quality, this quality of the center. And it's the number 16. And you can write these down. This is the first what they call BG3 number. This number generates that harmonizing quality when you use it. And this is the first in a series. I'm gonna give you the first 3 of them. What do you say, Marcia?
Didn't say
Oh.
anything.
Oh, sorry.
That
Um,
was my phone that's on airplane mode.
Oh, okay.
I don't understand.
So the most important ones are the lower ones. They're the most stable, and it's 16, 19, and 28. 16, 19, and 28. 16 super powerful. Those of you that might have ever seen like one of the this is not a BG3 pendulum, but a BG3 pendulum, it has 16 discs on it. The reason for that is that that generates that resonance with the centering quality and allows that pendulum to automatically detect it. So the 19 is a more spiritual quality, and then it goes up, right? 34 to 54. There's other ones, but they're not like as stable. But work with the 16, 19, and 28. I'll give you some examples of how I use this. Like, let's say, first of all, if I take nanosoma, I do 8 sprays. Right? If you're gonna do that anyway, there's no sense bringing the life force in. But I kind of look. Let's say I have to take a dropper full of something, and it's 15 or it's 20 drops. I choose 16 drops, or 19 drops, or 28 drops. And it's amazing. You can measure this like with a pendulum, right? You put this in, oh, it's clockwise, it's good for you. And that 16 drop goes in and it's a woo. It takes it way up. So that's one thing that you can do. That's what I do. Droppers 16, 19, or 28. Another one is like, let's say that you have crystals out in your house and you have small crystals. Try putting them in a circle of 16 of them. All right. That's another example. Planting flowers. Right? Maybe you want to experiment. What happens if you put 16 of them in a flower bed or whatever? These things really, really, really matter, and they create a completely different energy qualities. Like one of the other things, like maybe you're doing affirmations. When I do them, I'm doing like 16 times. Why not? And then recently I started playing, like Theo sent out this email about this guy about chewing your food way more. So I started experimenting with a particular food, and then I would take a biogeometry number. I was going to chew that 34 times. I mean, the sky's like the limit. You can do this with anything.
It might be kind of fun if you got a plate of food, you like look at your mashed potatoes and you're like, I'm gonna take 16 bites to eat that little portion plate, or lots of ways to implement this.
Yeah, so any objects you have, put 16 of them together, put 8 of them together, 19, 28. I mean, you even with biogeometry, you can test this when you do it on paper. Writing the number 16 is not going to do anything. But if you put 17 lines, you have 16 spaces, right? And poof, it creates this harmonizing energy again. And I just moved that shit all over the house. I put it like everywhere, and I use it for yeah, as much as I can. Because to me, even though that quality gets generated, it's like Patter said earlier, it also brings awareness to what I'm doing, right? And you start to be more conscious about what you're doing. Just a simple thing of me having to do 16 drops, I have to pay attention. So if I'm counting anyway, I might as well connect with my heart to it. and let that heart energy radiate through it, and it all becomes way, way, way more powerful. Right. So yeah, those are some simple things that I wanted to share with you as far as like using numbers. Does anybody have any questions about this, about the numbers or about how it works, or Marcia?
Is the 16, the 19, and 28 all the same quality, or are there different qualities in each one of those?
That's a good question. So they are all what is called like the centering quality, which is like that source connection that harmonizes. But then there are, in a way, more sub-qualities, you can call them, to where they resonate more with particular aspects of that energy. So the 19 is a more spiritual number, for example. I don't have it here, but it actually, when you go in the book, it goes through the whole list and it even tells you what organ it resonates with, or many different things that you can find out. So like for people that have the BG3 panel, you can actually see which one's strongest for you at that moment. This goes really far. I just want to give you like a simple way, but yeah, it's the one energy quality, Marcia, that harmonizes everything, but the numbers then resonate with like a different aspect, more with a certain aspect of that energy.
And I apologize, I may have missed, you said the book you were reading about this?
Yeah, it's Dr. Kareem's books. So he has one that is called Back to a Future for Mankind. That's a good introduction about biogeometry and this harmonizing quality and life force. The one I really like is Biosignatures. And that is a book in which you will find certain symbols and you learn to draw them in a certain way, balancing things. I mean, they have symbols like, I actually put Patter up to it, but we were doing a little project while I was in Maui. I was like, dude, seriously? For months in Egypt, every morning I spend a half hour drawing these symbols. And you have them for EMF, to get rid of earth radiation, to support all the major organs, the heart. They have them even for depression. And do not underestimate the simplicity of this, because Dr. Kareem was invited to a study where they wanted to make a fool out of him with these symbols. So they did a study with people that had depression, and they had allopathic medicine and alternative medicine, and one of them was Kareem with his symbols. So he would just draw those symbols and people would wear them or have them with them. He had the highest success rate with the people that were depressed of any methodology, of anything that was applied. And it was just, through the symbols. They could even measure the serotonin go up in the body by drawing these symbols. So that's why I always recommend that book for those of you that are more experience oriented and say, I don't need to know all this science stuff. I want to practically know what I can do with this. Get that book. Like, and you have to draw them in a very specific way. You got to start at a certain point, and then it has to be one fluid like movement. You cannot really do this with your mind. It's a relaxation. You have to relax into it, and that creates that flow. And he actually created, like I'm wearing one of them, pendants with him that have these symbols on there. And just to give you an idea how he found that is, like, he would sit on like an anatomy map, for example, the heart, and he would take like a pencil and then he would measure where the pendulum would tell him to go. And that's how he found like all these energy structures. So if you, for example, and this is going a little further, if you see the heart symbols in that book, some of them look like a physical heart. Other ones you can directly correlate with the blood flow through the chambers in the heart. Other ones are directly correlated with higher levels that are connected to the heart, maybe the emotional, mental, or the spiritual plane. So I highly recommend that book. It's been really valuable, and it's a practical way for you to feel and experience this. That's what's really about. And then there's a third book, Marcia, and it's called The Physics of Quality. It's about 600 pages. It's this blue book. I only recommend for people that are crazy like I am and really want to know the ins and outs of it, because it goes very much in detail. So I
So
hope that helps.
question, with these books, do you recommend any of them audible, or is it better to have the real books on all of
Real
them?
book.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, just making sure. I like to, sometimes when my mind's going too much, I'll put on a book to quiet it down too.
Yeah,
So
these I
okay,
prefer to read because there's also so many images in there,
that are
especially by
good.
a sing.
Okay.
I don't even know if there are on Audible.
Okay,
I
probably
think it's
because it's
just Kindle or the hardcover, but yeah,
okay. Cool,
yeah,
cool.
I can
Oh, I'm
highly
so
recommend
excited.
those.
Cool.
All right. Anybody else have any questions about this? Awesome. Use it. And play with it, right? I mean, don't take it too serious. Don't get all stressed out over it, right? Just be like a
The,
little child with it.
the last one was the what was the last one? The physics of what or what?
The physics of quality.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm putting them in my Amazon right now. I'm getting
It's a
excited.
that one's no joke. I read it a few times, but never front to back. I just kind of
Hmm. Just jump in and see where it takes you.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's how
yeah,
I
yeah.
read books.
Me too. I have so many bookmarkers in every book, and yeah, same, same.
Yeah. All right. So we're gonna end with today, and I'm curious to hear. You guys might find way more ways to apply this, right? Go ahead and do it. There's never too much harmonizing energy or life force. So, Marcia, you're muted. Yeah.
Sorry. Um, when you're doing the glass and your food, do you do it each time you take a bite or a drink, or do you just do it the one time and let it go?
You do it to one time. So I would take the glass and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's it, clockwise. So what that really does on a subtle level, it starts that vortex back up and that connection to the life force. But when I'm chewing food, don't do it always. Like, let's try 16, 19, 28, or 34 times. 34 is also a number like that. All right, cool. Well, if there's no questions about that, let's go to the last practice that I've prepared. And this is really we showed you that the life force exercise, the first one, that's really good to like build your energy, right? And get into that feeling state and just follow that. This one is a practice that I find very powerful when you're off your center and you want to get centered for something. This one's really powerful, and I'm going to talk you kind of through the process first so you know what to expect, and then we'll do it together and see how you experience it. So this one's called the golden thread. And what this is based on is like if you look in your energetic body, there's a really important energy channel that runs like from the middle like of your head, from your crown down through the central axis of your body through the perineum. It doesn't stop there, right? This goes all the way down into the earth, and it goes all the way up into the heavens, right? So you can kind of imagine like a tube that's about a golf ball size that runs, from the top of the head all the way down to the perineum, and then it keeps going. Now, in the center of that tube, there is what is called the golden thread. That's the center of that particular energy. And it's extremely centering. It's very powerful. It's a very strong way to bring this BG3, this one harmonizing quality in by putting your awareness there. So what we're going to do is we're going to connect with that. And everybody's different. some of you are more male and about visualization, and you can visualize that cord there, right? That is fine. But there's also the female way, which is like, hey, it has a vortex around it. Just let yourself get sucked in and go there, and you will get there, right? Whichever way works better for you. Now, one of the things I like to do when I'm connecting to the earth is I like to put like a filter under it. So I just imagine it as like a fine mesh, like a net, and I just set the intention that I'm only taking the energies in that are beneficial and that all other ones are neutralized. And now these days, with all the 5G satellites and all the EMF, I do it above my head too. So I imagine a filter there that basically filters out anything that's not like beneficial. Right? If you have a cosmic tower, you can ask your cosmic tower, hey, make sure that the ground below me where I'm connecting to the earth is clear. Make sure that the sky above me is clear where I'm connected. So that's another way to do it. All right. All right. So just close your eyes. Just take a deep breath. Let that out with a sigh. Ah, just relaxing. Just allow your body to shift and change posture. Just getting more and more relaxed. Now, I want you to do is to just visualize or become aware of this central tube of energy that runs from the top of the crown to the perineum, and then it extends down into the earth. But this tube also extends all the way up into the skies. And then just put that filter there below your feet or below where you're sitting. Just imagine like a filter that ensures that only what's positive, only what's beneficial for you comes in. Everything else is transformed. And you do the same above your head. Just imagine like a fine mesh or like a filter, filtering all the energies that are coming in through your crown, making sure only those that are harmonious, that are beneficial for you, are coming through. So just imagine how this energy channel extends all the way into the center of the earth and then comes out the crown, connecting all the way into the heavens. That's right. And as you're aware of this tube, just visualize or become aware that in the center of it, there's this golden thread that runs there. If you can't see it, that's okay. Just imagine it being there. Maybe you can see it. Maybe you can feel it. Maybe you can hear it or even smell or taste it. It doesn't matter. Whichever way works best for you, just connect with that golden thread in the center. If visualizing doesn't work for you, just set your intention to go there and let this vortex take you there. And just notice how naturally you will come connected to that thread. One of the things that I notice when I connect to this thread is that my spine starts adjusting. It just happens naturally. Just let that happen. Whatever your body wants to do, just let the body do what it wants to do. Simply being aware of that golden thread of energy in the center of your central channel. That's right. Just gently holding your awareness there. Just notice that tiny golden thread, the center of your energy being. Noticing how much more peaceful things get. And naturally and automatically, as you pay attention to that golden string, to that golden thread, you start centering yourself. Everything starts to come into balance. That's right. Great. The mind comes in, that's fine. Just let it. Don't pay attention to it. Just put your awareness on that golden thread in the center. Taking a few more moments, just staying with that golden thread. And then in a moment, you can just open your eyes back up, come back into the room, and notice how different you feel. Just a little tip, a little trick from my Taoist teacher. Always have a little smile. If you don't know how to do that, just try to lift your ears. What it does, it opens your crown. When the crown opens, it's the bottom open. It allows for that connection. Smiling is really important. It's one of the main practices in Taoist teachings. Doesn't mean you have to be like the YouTube videos, right? Just a little smile lifts all your organs, opens your crown, opens perineum, all the energy starts flowing, and it uplifts you. So always try to have that little, that Buddha statue smile. Hey, I know something you don't, that, but I'm not telling you. Right? And if that's an issue, if that's a challenge for you, just lift your ears. They'll do it too. Awesome. How did that go? The practice for you guys. Marcia, I can't hear you. Oh. Yeah, you're on. Oh, you just remuted. There you are.
I do that in a different way every morning.
Okay,
And
that's perfect.
then I do a vortex and then through my heart. And I give
Yeah.
thanks to Father, Mother, God, and then also to Gaia.
Mm-hmm. Good. Yeah. Whichever way works for you is always good. And then there's just a connection, but then when you focus on the thread or it just even being there, you bring that centering quality in, right? Which harmonizes it even more. So yeah, play with it. Thank you. Anybody else? Oh, Megan.
Oh, yeah, no, I was gonna say I really like this, and because I at times like the exercise we did before, if my mind gets a little chattery still, I've been envisioning that from the last call we have because that's really helped me. Because again, I'm so used to like pushing my energy out, and so to like do this, it has been life changing. Like
Really?
especially when I've been like super anxious and this and that, like just to hold it all in. And so that exercise too, and like I found myself just connecting to that the 8 symbol and just like going with it. And so that was a really good like connection. And so yeah, I'm not gonna need to meditate after work today. I'm set. This is awesome.
That's great. So these are just some simple practices that I wanted to share with you that have been valuable for me. And take what resonates, leave the rest, right? And just sharing, and everybody's different. But what matters is like, because I know I bring a lot of different things, pick what works for you, right? And make it your practice. Right? I've talked about this before. As Westerners especially, we're always looking for this new shiny penny because our minds get bored so easily, but it's really about really getting depth in what is a simple practice that works for you, right? If I look at a spiritual practice, if you want to call it that, like the most important to me is that I can do it 24/7 a day when I choose to. It doesn't need all these different things, but you have to be able to do it in the moment. And I truly believe that, at least for me, that works way better than trying to make myself meditate for a half hour every morning. If you can do that, that's totally great, right? But I'm not that like kind of person. I just like to do these things for a little bit of time, many times a day. The other thing that happens is when you get really, when you really start embodying these practices, it just starts like, it's like this to turn it on. It doesn't take you 30 seconds or a minute anymore, right? It just becomes like a muscle memory. And that's really important because we keep recreating the same stories, the same dramas in our life. Why? Because in that moment between something happening and that reaction, there's no consciousness. You know, somebody says this, I say that, right? And it just happens. We never even stop to center. So this is a way when you're out of center, and like talked about the doorway, another way can be, you know, when your phone rings, don't just go like, ah, and answer. Look, do I really want to talk to Patty right now or not? You know? And if I'm gonna answer that, like, okay, I gotta center myself first, take a few deep breaths and go to center. I'm just poking fun of it, but you know what I'm getting at, right? Most of us were so, you know, we get driven by our outer environment. Or I remember when I first quit the corporate world, I couldn't hear my phone for years. Like it was just like gave me such a bad feeling, like just to hear that sound, like because they used to call me in the middle of the night, this is broken or dad, and I'd spend all weekend on something, right? So you see how the body starts creating these reactions and these responses. And the only way to change that is to just become aware of it and either just be with the feeling and let it be, or choose something different, right? When you come to that centering place, when you're really connected to your own source connection, that's when you really have the power to start changing things, right? But it just starts with your awareness. So I think all these practices help. Even, you know, with the first one to get in more life force, it also, you know, you become a lot better at paying attention to your feelings and not getting hung up on them, right? Because you want to practice these things when it's easy, because in the heat of the moment, those feelings will come with a lot more energy. And if you think that you're then going to be ready to deal with that in a different way, that's usually not how it works, right? If you cannot drive a car in the driveway, you know, I mean, you're not going to go straight on the highway. You're going to start at a slower speed too. This is the same. But you'll start noticing over times that you're going to start responding instead of reacting. And then, well, the world's your oyster. You can create anything you want, right? And even if things don't go the way you envision them, it's going to be a lot easier to deal with them. So I hope that was useful. And yeah, thank you everybody for joining. I don't know if anybody still has any questions or any comments? Nope.
Just gratitude. Thanks, Nico. Appreciate
Okay.
it.
It's my pleasure. Thank you,
Uh,
everyone.
Hey, Nico, I have a question. Oh, it looks like
Yes.
Marcia might be trying to speak too.
Sorry, what did you say, Jordan?
I think I'll let Marcia go first because it seemed like she was trying to speak.
Oh,
No, I just wanted
I
to
think she
thank
was just going
Nico.
to say bye, I think.
Thank you. I just want to
Go
thank,
ahead.
go ahead.
Go ahead, Jordan.
Okay. I plan to go back and watch your Cosmic Tower Science series. Okay, so, and after I do that, I do these practices. Would it, have you found that it's makes it easier to connect with a specific, I'll call it consciousness or energy?
Well, I don't know. I see what you're getting at. I think it's a prerequisite in a way for connecting with a different consciousness, right? Definitely if it's a higher like consciousness, you cannot force to source, right? You cannot, I mean, you have to relax into it, right? So our body is basically an instrument to where we can connect on all these layers, but it cannot happen like through force. So the more centered we can get and the more relaxed, right? Yeah, absolutely. It makes it easier to make a connection with a different consciousness.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Don't get in trouble.
Okay, I won't.
All right. Awesome. Well, thank you, everyone. And thank
Thank
you
you.
for
Thank you,
joining.
Nico.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Take care.
See you soon.
Nico, thank you, Peter.
Thank
All
you.
right, bye for
Thank
now.
you.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.